Welcome to Live, Let, Thrive, a podcast about the Airbnb life, the share economy, and everything in between. Here are your hosts, Myka and Steve.
Hello, and welcome back to another exciting episode of Live, Let, Thrive, your favorite Airbnb, VRBO, short-term, mid-term, long-term rental podcast in the world, coming at you from Fort Worth, Texas, and Grand Prairie, Texas today because we got a special guest. And also Myka couldn't join us today. He's handling some important matters. Our thoughts and prayers are with him. And so we'll talk more on that in a future episode. But so it's me, Stevie Stacks, and I'm excited to come at y'all. We're gonna talk some short-term rentals. We're gonna talk some co-hosting, some management. You know, this is what we do, and we got a special guest joining us. His name is Federico Zimmerman, or as I call him, Federico, give me a second, Zimmerman. And he is half of the company I co-founded with him, Argis Rentals. I'm excited to have him on the show. He's a repeat guest, and he's doing so many things in the short-term rental world. He's the STR guide. He's the safety guy. He's manages a big portfolio of properties. And so I'm excited to have him on to pick his brain because he's hard guy to get a hold of because he's so busy sometimes. And so welcome to the show, Federico.
Thank you, Steve. Give me a second and let's get started. Let me explain on that. I think I already did on the show, but it's technology nowadays. So whenever Steve calls me, it's like, give me a second because I need to figure out my Bluetooth because, I have two pair of headsets and it's connected to the car, to the phone, whatever it is. It drives me crazy. So it's like, give me a second so I can figure it out where am I speaking out of.
Yes, sir. And so we've told your story on this show before. You want to give a little refresher, just a quick little elevator refresher?
Yeah, absolutely. So like very quickly, I'm originally from Argentina. I'm 32, married with furry kids, so I have two dogs and a cat. I moved to America in November. So my story, when I was 20 or 19, 20, I started working at American Airlines in Argentina. Started my career in the airline industry and everything related to hospitality, service industry, tourism, travel, hospitality, and customer service especially, and systems, right? Because I was in the reservations department, and I was in the training department, so I was training all the offices around the world. So I got to travel quite a bit, over 1 million miles, over 60 countries, which was amazing. And during COVID, I met Steve a couple of years back. That's you. We started with the short-term rental part. I would say more than 3 years ago. So I got started in short-term rental, hosting my room, my spare room when I started first. Then you brought me in with Myka to start co-hosting and managing some of the Airbnb accounts, and then we started Argis out of the necessity of the lack of good property management companies out that were trustworthy in a growing space, because this was like, COVID, and then post-COVID, what happened is that we saw a lot of that, what is called revenge travel, that people were so eager to travel and so much demand. And it was a great moment to grow your Airbnb portfolio, but management companies were not up to the standards expected, right? And so that's how we got started. And then we started with our first property in Fort Worth together, some in Dallas. Then some people started to reach out like, hey guys, you're doing a good job, so can you manage a property? That's how we started scaling, right?
Yeah, man. It's it was like sink or swim, man. Hey, you want to help? We like what you're doing with your properties, and you were fortunate enough to escape a certain wrath of a management company that had their grip on a few of our friends. And could you we're jumping off ship from them. Could you help us? And that's what's cool about what we're doing currently. We've always been networking and meeting other people, but you just keeping those channels open, because when something like that happens, when a friend falls out with a certain with a company that's doing a bad job, even if they say right now, we have a management company, we're good, you never know what's going to happen in the future. And you just always be, that's why we share so much, with this show's been sharing with people for like 6 years now. And then you're sharing all your content online, the STR guide, look them up at STR guide, on Instagram and all that. And so just sharing and always having an abundancy mindset, and any question, like, and we're talking about a friend named Sarah. She had questions and stuff like that. We were always happy to answer her questions or help or whatever she needed. She helped us get our start in Fort Worth, which we're forever grateful for. And so in turn, we helped her. Whatever you need, Sarah, we'll manage for free, maybe not forever, but we'll measure, we'll do whatever we can to help you because you helped us. It's just, if you think of life like that and business like that, man, you're just going to grow exponentially.
It is amazing. That's what I've been experiencing in the last couple of weeks since I started the STR guide, which is this Instagram account that is, I just started sharing information. I've been sharing a lot of free guides and free things I've been developing just to help people, right? It is funny because early today we had a meeting, like Steve and I, we had a meeting, and we were talking about some intrapersonal stuff and some traits that you bring from childhood and how you carry some weights, right, in on your back. And I was thinking, sometimes you assume that what you know is something that everyone should know just because you're not above the rest. Like, I don't feel like I'm better than anyone. I just have the experience, right? And I'm not saying that I am. I'm just saying that sometimes you don't put the value of your experience, and then when you talk to people, you realize, well, I can actually provide a lot of value for some people just because of the experience that I have, for the things that I live, because I already did it. And as we like to say, we're already fucked up, so you don't have to fuck up, right? Yeah, sorry for the R-rated show already. But that's the truth, and I'm from what a lot of networking I've been doing lately and participating with some of the events that Sarah's been doing. And one of the girls, she reached out because she had a
Sarah Glidewell from the Carwells.
Yeah. So she had a mentorship, and I've been joining and sharing some knowledge in the mentorship, and she invited me to Chicago to the graduation of the 2 first classes. It was amazing what she set up. I mean, I praise to her. I met some people and they were reaching out. One of the girls from the mentorship, she had her cleaner car catch on fire by the house, and it burned the side of the house, and she had to repair and cancel reservations. And she didn't know how to deal with that and how to cancel reservations with Airbnb. And for that, it's like a day-to-day thing. So I explained how to go through the process to her. No, it's just because I know she was desperate and she needed some help. It's like, what will you do? And it's like, listen, do this, and that. So Airbnb is going to cancel the reservations with no penalty, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And she was like, wow, I didn't think about that. And then she had another issue, like later on. It's like, okay, this is the way that you should. I will handle it, and maybe it will be, the way that you can do it. So that was yesterday, and today she was like so grateful. Hey, you know what you told me to do, and I would have never thought about that, and it worked, and I was able to cancel that reservation. And I think that is great because getting started in this industry, I think one of the challenges is really understanding what is actually valuable, what is valuable information, and what is just people trying to get you hooked into a type of scheme, mentorship that is not worth, or something like that. So I always say I have my non-BS people to go to. So I would say Lila Thrive, Sean, the Carwells, and then there are a bunch that I really trust, and I know that they're sharing information. And if you're paying for any of their knowledge that they share with a value, you're gonna actually get value from not only the knowledge, but actually from the network that you're gonna be getting into, and the circle, and the people you're going to be working with, and getting to know, because that's the other part, is like the people you surround yourself is going to have such a big influence in what you do that is going to push you to do better and amazing things. So that's another thing that I'm a big believer of. So yeah, man, I mean, I'm so excited because this last couple of weeks I've been meeting so many people, and I'm just ready to keep growing.
Man, that's a lot to unpack right there, but that's what we're here for. I want to start this question. Salud, I'll add something to my tea in a minute. because we kind of touched it. We had a meeting, and meetings. I'll tell you, if you're gonna have a company, you know, a partnership or a company with employees, meetings are pretty crucial. I'm learning that. We're
Yeah.
learning that because, um, working in corporate America or whatever, meetings ever say, oh, there's a meeting and blah blah blah. Oh, everybody just but especially in a small business, it really helps to realign everything because it just stepping just people going, here it's like a football team, American football. I say they all get a huddle before each play, right? This is what we're gonna do.
Right.
All right, you're gonna go this way, ready, break. They break and they go and then they run that play, right? Imagine if they didn't huddle and plan out the next play or the next play after that or the next play, and they just kept doing the same play over and over or something, or someone over here decided to do something different. It gets out of whack. You have to bring it back in the huddle and go over and realign the focus again, and I'm so happy we did that today, and it's cool that we're doing a podcast today together. But from that meeting we had, one thing stood out, and it's like there's so many things that stood out, but one of it was like we were thrown into managing for other people, and this show's gonna be heavy on the management and the co-hosting side. That's what people want to hear, and that's what we do. We love to talk about it too, but one thing that stood out is I think we said, man, if we could do it all over again, we would do this instead. And so what are some of the things, like if someone right now listening said, man, this co-hosting or management sounds really cool, I could dive in, I don't have to use any of my own money, I don't have to put my name on leases, I don't got to do whatever, buy furniture, I could just help someone else out and make a small percentage or make a percentage of what they're making, and I want to do that. And so what would you, like, mistakes that like we did, what would you do different if you were starting it from day one over again?
Wow, that's a great question. There are so many things I would do differently. I think it starts from the starting point. I think you and I will both have a work ethic where we really trust and like to do things for people that we will think that people will really value, and then we take them for granted that, and then we end up doing things for free. So I'll say, be very clear on the scope of your management, what's going to be included and what's not going to be included, and what should be invoiced, right? So I'll say that's one of the things that in the beginning it's a little bit hard to draw the line, but that's something that if you can do it from the start and saying, okay, these are my responsibilities, and this is something that is going to be your responsibility, because when you start having clients, especially if you never had clients before, you want to be complacent and do everything for them, but that can get you in trouble, because then you're going to be overworked, you're going to feel undervalued and underappreciated sometimes. I'm not saying by all of your clients, but it's something we experience sometimes. So I'll say that's number one. Number two is really try to find your target audience. Same as we talk about that when it comes to renting your property on Airbnb, and you want to have your target audience and understanding who you are targeting when you are setting up your place. You want to do the same thing for your management company or co-hosting. It's like, okay, what type of properties or what locations do you want to co-host? And for locations, we manage everywhere, and that's not an issue. But we start to decide on, okay, these are the places, these are the type of properties that we want to manage this way. These are the type of properties we want to manage this way, because managing a large luxury house and managing a one-bedroom apartment in a Class C building, are two different, total different things. And the funny thing is that maybe the luxury house is going to be less work than the Class C building, just because you're going to be dealing with less complaints, less refunds, less problems. But again, in the beginning, I think we were eager to grow the business, grow the company, and take everyone's welcome here. We're going to manage everything, and then we started to say, okay, maybe this is not a fit. This is not for us. And another thing, if I can add, and let me know if I'm talking too much, but another thing I'll add is definitely also work on limiting the owner or clarifying the owner responsibilities and involvement on the day-to-day operation. getting owners to step into the property, it could be an issue. Getting owners reading at every message and getting, providing real-time feedback on the messages that you're sending to your guests. It's going to put a lot of pressure on you and your team if you have a team. Because it's awful to be sending a message and seeing that they're reading and commenting on top. It's like, let me figure it out myself. That's how we're going to learn. And then you can give me your feedback if you want to.
Yeah. And we've learned all these lessons the hard way, I would say. One thing it just automatically comes to mind is when we were like, man, we were just looking at this number. Oh man, it'd be so great to get to 50 properties, right?
Oh yeah.
It was like we just, because we started growing and we started getting properties, and then we just wanted more and more. We didn't care what it was. And I remember you started reaching out to people on Airbnb, and then that's when you found a certain client in our same area, and oh yeah, I got like 20 properties. Y'all can have all of them. And, holy crap, we just picked up 20, we just hit 50 properties, man. This is amazing. This is a miracle. And then, oh my God, that was the worst thing that could have possibly happened to us, because we were coming out of pocket to pay for things like sofas that didn't have legs, and and putting a mattress that had stains and all kinds of craziness all over it, and we were swapping things out. I was over there every freaking week. I was like so pissed at you sending me to these ghetto units over and over. But it was so bad, and we're like, man, this is never happening again. We're never picking up just any units, even though it sounded like, hey, they're in the same complexes that we're at, right? And so this would be easy. This is like this is next door neighbors we're managing, but it was so bad, and they didn't want to pay for any upgrades. We were paying stuff out of our own pocket and hoping to get reimbursed by them. It was just like such a clusterfuck, right? And so, but we learned the hard way, man. We can't just take on anybody. We don't want any of these, not all the clients. And especially, I mean, there's so many red flags. A client, why do I have to pay for that? Why don't you just, you pay for it and then fuck that. Why are we paying for things? This is your Airbnb. I'm starting to get heated up a little bit, but we don't want clients like that. As soon if a client gives us now we know if a client gives a certain pushback, yeah, why don't you just pay for everything and then invoice? No. It's not going to happen that way. We're laying the groundwork now, right? We keep keep a credit card on file or whatever. If something comes up, yes, we can handle it, but it's going to come out of your money. We're not going to be extending ourselves to bankruptcy to pay for all these people's properties. That's just one example.
Man. And the other thing, I will say right now, more than the type of property itself, what I'm looking for is working with people that have the right mindset, which is hospitality. I think something that many of you may know already is that with cheap debt, 3% interest rate, a lot of people jump into real estate, and a lot of the people who jump into real estate thought, okay, what can I do, with this property? How can I get the most return on this investment? I'm gonna put it on Airbnb because I heard someone in Instagram that is a passive income type of thing, right? So those people do not have a hospitality mindset. They only want to see a return on the investment, and they want to maximize the margins. Not understanding that maximizing your margins sometimes means is spending money on items that's going to have a return on investment. It means spending time and effort and being complacent to your guests and maybe give them treats or certain refunds if something bad happened, to get better reviews in order to get more business. But they do not understand. Some people do not understand that. And I have someone that doesn't have like the best property, but it has that mindset of hospitality and understands when we're doing a refund, when we're doing something like that, than someone that has an amazing property, but when something breaks, they don't want to replace it. And they want us to claim the ass out of someone for a small little thing. And that's something I actually experienced. So one of the properties that actually was making one of our higher grossing properties that we had, we just fired the client because I really got frustrated at a point where this is like this property is making a lot of money, but it's dragging my energy, and it's making me miserable, and it's starting to affect on my personal day to day, because I'm having lunch with my wife, and I have to be dealing with the shitty situation because she was expecting. So this is a property with a pool, and the pool pump wasn't working, so there was a storm the night before. So I wanted to send someone to scoop the pool because it was full of leaves and dirt. And the guests pay for a property with a pool, and they want a clean pool. I was like, well, they should have known. The expectation should have been set that the pump wasn't working. It's like, but no expectation. They book a place with a working pool. When a working pool, if it broke down, we need to send someone to clean it. Not telling them that it's broken, so you have to suck it up. So that and many things is like, I sent an email the other day. It's like, hey, this is a report for the month. I sent a report at the end of the month to every client, just letting them know like their occupancy and revenue and operating expense at P&L. I was like, by the way, this month you were in the top 20% properties in your market, and didn't hear about that. I only heard about was a negative review about another guest. So, it is hard because when you're your own boss, and the owner of the company, you're not gonna have someone patting your back all the time. But you wanna, if you're telling your client that you're on the top 20% of your market, you wanna hear like, hey, thank you for that. Just a thank you. Not even like you're doing an amazing job. It's just, thank you for doing that. Not even that. So, it became increasingly frustrating. And at the end of the day, it's like, I'm sure if we get rid of this property, we can replace that income with other clients. I'd rather manage for 3 people with 3 different properties than one person with this property that is being such a headache. I mean, I know she's a nice person. It's not a personal problem. It's like the way of doing business. She doesn't have the mindset, the way that her personality works. She doesn't have. I don't think she has higher emotional intelligence where she understands the needs of the hospitality business. So that's something I'll definitely tell everyone is, if you're getting into short-term rentals, if you want to be a co-host and you want to get started in co-hosting, you need to ask yourself, do I have the emotional intelligence to deal with people that are going to have stupid questions, people that are going to be frustrated just because they're in a new place, people that are going to be frustrated because they're traveling in a week that they may rather stay home but had to travel for work. So you're going to be dealing with that.
Or if you're a pure numbers person, maybe get someone on your team that has that emotional intelligence to do all that stuff for you, because it's a mix. It ain't just numbers, man. It's an art, it's a science, it's math, it's all of that.
You need to understand that people have different personalities, and it's not that one is worse than the other. It's just like they work for different stuff. So I really like going a little bit on the educational part of my previous job. We used to work, since I was doing the training, I had the luck to have an amazing boss that trained us in many different type of learning theories. And there's one that I love from Howard Gardner. He was he's a psychologist from Harvard, and he developed the multiple intelligence theory, right? And he says that there are different type of intelligences. You have like musical, visual, spatial, intrapersonal, interpersonal, logical, mathematical, linguistic. So every person has a different type of intelligence that is stronger than the other intelligences. So it is good for you, when you get into a new venture and a new business, to understand yourself. Okay, am I good for sales? Am I good for hospitality? Or am I, as you were saying, a numbers person, right? So if you have a property and you're not good with people, the best idea is to find a co-host, find a management company. Now, if you want to be a manager, a property manager for short-term rentals, you need to understand you're gonna have to deal with a lot of people and different emotions of people in different states.
It's all that, man. It's all that. And we can go on and on about that, but I want to jump to another topic before that's something that's pressing for us, but it's going to present itself to you arbitragers out there, right? And we are arbitragers ourselves. We have several arbitrages. I don't know. We have like 10, 15, who knows? We got a bunch. And then we have a bunch of management, more management than arbitrage. But anyways, we deal in both worlds. All 3 worlds if you consider owning, but that's a different story. So a question I had for you, Federico, Freddy, Fetty, whatever you want to call him.
My multiple names.
What do you do? Let me see. How did I word this question? It was a nice question. Oh, how do you handle slumlord arbitrages? Which I'll go and say, I'll specify a little more. So when you jump into a place, it looks good. They renovated a place. It looks nice. Got all the new shiny, finishes and stuff. Wow, this is gonna be a great Airbnb or short-term rental. And you go sign the lease. Boom, boom, boom. Start getting bookings. Everything's fine for the first couple months, maybe the first month, maybe 2 months, and then down the line, everything starts falling apart, and they don't fix nothing. And everything on the exterior falls apart, and they don't fix it. They just turn into total slumlords. But you're stuck with these leases. How do you handle situations like that? First of all, how do you prevent getting into those situations?
Man, I mean that's a multiple part question and answer because it's something that we actually experienced. I will say first of all, before signing any lease, try to find as much information as possible about the management company. We're talking about apartment complexes here, so houses it may be a little bit more difficult because it's usually single homeowner landlord, so it's a little bit rough to get all the information. But if we're talking about apartment complexes, I'll say try to find them in Google, try to see what properties they already have. If it's a new property but they have other running properties, try to go to those other properties, get inside, see how they're dealing with like trash in the hallways, trash around the building, to get a sense of how that property is going to be in a few months, just to get started. Once you're stuck with a property like that, you're going to have to do two things, I'll say. Number one is finding a way for you to get people inside that they're going to be an audience, that they're going to deal with the situation, with the environment, without being a constant cancel and refund scenario. So what we did here is we understood that the buildings where we're operating that became that type of building were not a safe space for people above 40 years old, I was saying average. They didn't feel comfortable. So people in the 20s, early 30s, they were fine with it. Older than that, usually it was more problematic, which, I think with age, you start to try to find more comfort. I experienced that. So, those buildings, you have a lot of people, smoking weed in the units, and the whole smell like weed. I mean, whether you like it or not, it's just like, it's maybe uncomfortable for a lot of people, full with trash, homeless people are around that may try to sneak inside. So think about that is, okay, so you already know that your price point is going to have to be lower, because even though your place may look great inside, if the apartment around the building around the apartment is falling apart, you're going to be dealing with all refund cancellations for that. So what we did in that case is, okay, we're going to target to younger, so we're going to change our title or description or photos or amenities for people that are coming to town to have fun, or try to cater for people that are staying, for longer stays in between places in a budget. And that's been working out pretty well, I will say. So we were able to stay afloat. I'll say all of those apartments, and it's a bunch of apartments we had with them, ended up being a profitable investment. Now that's the interesting part. I'm saying we have a bunch of with them. So this is a situation that deteriorated over time. So when we got started, it wasn't this bad. The problem is that this building complex had a business model, where they allow everyone to do short-term rentals. So if you search for properties that allow short-term rentals, sometimes they're hard to find. Here they're welcoming them. So it got crowded with operators. So every building was a hostel. Now we reach out at some point to the management company and say, hey, listen, we're professional operators. We can run all of the buildings. We can the apartments. We can do some type of deal, and we can run all of them professionally, and it's gonna be better for everyone. They didn't want to do that, and now you have a lot of unprofessional operators, and these buildings are becoming really tough because a lot of people don't know what they're doing. They're just, staging the places very cheaply. And by staging the places very cheaply, they're attracting cheap guests, sometimes not the best guests. And we've seen it all over there. We've seen it all. Looking on the ring cameras, we've seen people running naked. We've seen people with guns. We've seen everything. So it wasn't supposed to be like that. We said it at the place is great. It wasn't like that when we just started. We just got in that situation just because we were surrounded by a lot of unprofessional operators, and then management did not take care of the buildings.
I guess we didn't do everything, our due diligence, but it started out okay at some spots, and we made some money, and of course we learned a ton of lessons. If we would have started off with perfect properties, we wouldn't have learned half the lessons we did by starting off with these. Because we got thrown into the battle, so we learned a lot by thrown into the battle, and especially it sharpened our edges with claims and bad reviews and all that stuff, and battling all that stuff. It really helped us out in that regard. So like if we have a great property that's someone puts a little bitty bad thing or breaks something or whatever, it's easy, because we went through it with the ghetto properties, right?
Man, it's even easy to claim $3,000 nowadays for us. So that is not a problem.
Yeah. So I guess on my end, I would say first of all, and it's hard to when you're beginning because you don't have any business credit or business history or nothing like that when starting off. But we've had these properties so long that we've had them before we had all that, so we were putting them in our own names, and that was a big mistake because we can't just, let's just say these went to total shit and it was a war zone at these places and we wanted to pull out, right? We're still, legally liable for these leases, and it would affect our personal credits and all that stuff. So it sucks. But if we would have had an LLC that just dealt with these particular properties, and it got to the point where it's so bad, we're putting people in unsafe situations, stuff like that, we could just say, hey, screw it. We're pulling out, Ghetto Properties LLC is folding, filing bankruptcy. Go ahead and go after it all you want. It's bankrupt now, whatever, So we would have been safe in that regard. We're learning all this stuff, the business structure now, and it's very important to get these properties into LLCs, or one LLC for a cluster of properties over here. That even if, hey, I'm gonna take a chance on this one, and I'm not sure, it's kind of on the border of the ghetto, but it's kind of really nice, if we had that cluster in LLC and say, hey, listen, we'd have a lot more leverage too. Listen, y'all fix these problems or we're just going to fold the LLC. We're going to pull out, you can't come after us. You can come after the LLC all you want, but it's, whatever. So that's the first point, we'll do whatever you can. And we do that now. We put our properties in LLCs, which is, we learned our lessons. Now, another thing is you should have a lawyer or someone like that to draw up things in your to put into the lease too. At least doesn't have to be one-sided. First of all, you definitely want to put in addendums, like in case of city, because that's happening now. It's still happening. The cities are banning Airbnb. Dallas is going through that. Yeah. These units happen to be in Dallas, so we don't know how that's going to pan out yet. We know what they want to do. It might go into place. It might not. If it goes into place, it wipes out 97% of operators, which is crazy. All of the neighborhoods, houses and neighborhoods are going to be wiped out. Plus, you can only do 3% in apartments. So I was like, 97% of people are gone doing Airbnb in Dallas, which hope it don't happen. But anyways, you have to have these addendums in place too. You say, hey, if the city, bans Airbnb, if I am no longer able to do Airbnb, if HOA, if whatever, then I can, I have 30 days, I can leave. You got to have to, if you got to have these things in place, even if it's the perfect property wherever is a dream come true, you still got to have some protections. So I put everything in an LLC, and then put everything with put addendums in there that are helpful for you. And you can go a couple $100, sit down with the lawyer, draw it up. If they really want you, they'll sign it.
I mean, talking about that, if I can, touch a little bit on safety, I don't. What happened with these buildings the other day is like I had an incident myself. I was working in one of the units. I went to do something. I had an incident where I almost hurt myself really bad just because of the condition of the building. So that's an ongoing situation. We can discuss more later on in another episode when we see what happens with that. But my biggest concern is if this would have happened to a guest, or assets. First of all, of course, I'll always be worried about the safety of my guests. Someone's staying in my house, in my home, because these are our homes. If someone's hurt in one of our properties, then first of all, I will feel awful about that. And then it's like, okay, what happens with our personal assets, right? So you have to really have to structure your business correctly in order to be protected if any of that happens. Now that I think I talked about this in another episode before, but I got certified as a safety inspector for short-term rentals, and now I'm starting to really understand the amount of liability and exposure to incidents that we have properties, and something that I'm really working on for our companies. If we onboard a new client, we're definitely have to go through an inspection process and making sure they're complying with our basic requirements for safety. So, you sent me a property the other day for a potential client, and she had a bunk bed with a fan in the middle, next to the bunk bed, and that's a no. I'm not gonna take management of a property with a fan next to a bunk bed. I'm not gonna take management of a property where the bunk bed is not certified and approved. And I'm not gonna take a property where the bunk bed doesn't have 4 inches of rail on the sides if the mattress is too high. Should it changes the mattress, or we're not gonna take management, because we're exposing ourselves to incidents, and then we are responsible because we are management. So I'll say that's something else that you wanna keep in mind. Even if you're a co-host, you're being exposed to that, because you are supposed to be making sure that every place is safe and it's a safe space for your guests. If you don't have working fire alarms, if you don't have fire extinguishers, and something happens, both you and the owner are liable. So for that, and we're starting with Mike Brown. We're starting a company to certify properties called Pit Stop Home Services. You can find us on Instagram. We're just gonna do our first inspections this weekend. This upcoming weekend. Yeah, so we're gonna start certifying properties and making sure that people are safe, because that's another thing that comes with these industries where you have a lot of solopreneurs, right? This is the word that I see. I see this repeating. I see certain patterns are repeating certain industries. And I'm gonna put it all in the same mix. I don't know, they're very different, but I'll say Amazon FBA, dropshipping, Shopify, so online type of business, crypto, and short-term rentals, and maybe tourist things that you can start from your own house by yourself, just learning, and with sometimes some little cash. The problem with that is you're gonna be surrounded by a lot of information, and it's hard to understand what is the good information and separate it from the bad information, who's just trying to rip you off and who's actually trying to help you. And then there are no standards in the industry because everyone does it differently. If you go to hotels, you're gonna see that hotels have really high safety standards. We work in the airline industry, and we know that in order to get close to an airplane on the airport, you have to go through a long, sometimes it's 1 month training just as a new hire, and then you have monthly safety training, recurrent trainings. And then when it comes to short-term rentals, we just put a couple of beds in a property, and okay, let's see what happens. And no one is thinking about all of those important things. And I mentioned this before. I love to jump into Airbnb and look for properties to see what people are doing, descriptions, photos, learning something new. Man, and now I'm starting to see so many things. It's like, I even reach out to hosts saying, hey man, just change this just in case for your own well-being. Like 1 bedroom, small bedroom, 2 queen bunk beds, and a fan in the middle. You have 8 people in a bedroom, so if there's a fire, they cannot get away. They can exit. They're covering the window, which is the egress point. If you can't get out of the door, and you have 8 people in a room, and also a fan in the middle, it's like, no, right? So then when it comes to the regulations, the cities start to, people try to ban the short-term rentals just because of the gun problems and prostitution and drug use. Like, if that will be a problem of the short-term rentals, when cities should be looking into making sure that people are getting a permit and they're complying with the basic safety measures. Because we're actually talking about actual, lives in danger for some properties are not prepared.
And it's funny you say basic because when going through getting our properties in Grand Prairie approved, right? So the inspector came over, you set an appointment, comes over, and it's kind of like he tells you, kind of like here's the answers to the test. I'm gonna go over there and test you. Here, you better have these answers. You know what I'm saying? So the answers being, you better have. It is basic, super basic, because all he wants to see is that we have a fire extinguisher. He don't care if it was still in the box under the sink. He didn't care. The fire extinguisher. Do we have a first aid kit in each bathroom, and the smoke alarms for each room? That's all. That's all. Pretty much all. Oh, we had to have a map of exits to the house. You know what I'm saying? And that was it. If there was bunk beds by a fan, he wouldn't check in on that. If there was other safety issues, he wasn't checking on it. That's all the things. Is like 4 things, and then boom, boom, boom. Here you are, approved. And I was happy because we got approved. Great guy, whatever. But like you said, the city's gonna do the most basic check for safety, and then it's up to you to really, really go in there and see what is dangerous for your guests.
But let me tell you something that is double the best of what most cities are doing. So I actually grateful. I love the city of Grand Prairie for doing that. I mean, I agree with you that most cities should be doing way more, but just the fact that they're coming, I mean, and they're telling you what you need to do, and it's fine because it's like, be prepared. This is what you need to have. But at least they're checking they have the bare basic. Many of the cities, they don't check anything. If you look, I've been looking at a lot of ordinances. So lately, I'll tell you, I've been talking to a lot of people about I've been running comms and underwriting deals all across the country. So I became very good at running numbers, running comms, and on the other side, understanding city regulations and going and finding the city regulations. And I can tell you that city regulations are all about zoning and how close are you from another Airbnb, another short rental operator, and things like that, but they never go through those safety items. And that is something I would love to see. Even Airbnb, I mean, I'm surprised that Airbnb is not making it like a requirement for that, because they're actually exposed to all of this, So I would assume that Airbnb should have like a little mini training on safety for your short-term rentals, and they should make you go through and make sure that you have the amenities on your property.
You hear that, Airbnb? Hire Federico right now, and he'll go and form a team, and he'll just pay him a few million. A few millions, a drop in the bucket, but he'll save you from billions in lawsuits.
And to be honest, I mean, I'm just learning all of this. I mean, I praise Justin Ford. He's a guy from Breezeway that developed the curriculum and the first short-term rental curriculum. But that is the thing, is it's a whole world, and so many things that can happen in a property, and people are not aware, because again, you get started, you do your best to try to separate the good information from the bad information. You know how to get started, and you're dealing with so many things like pricing, iCalendars and property management system, and maybe automating some messages. And what is an inquiry? A lot of people are getting started and they don't know what they're doing. So this is something that we've been learning down the road, and definitely is something I would love to see cities start to apply. But I'm definitely making sure that everyone that's working with Argest and with us is aware of the very basic things that you have to have in your properties, making sure your properties are safe. And it also talks about your customer experience. The way that I see it, if you invest on making your property safe, your guest is gonna notice that, and they're gonna say, okay, I'm staying at a place where they're worried and they care about my property. For my well-being. They care about me not being, in danger. And I can assure you that that's gonna bring more 5-star reviews to your property.
Here's something, and I heard this today because Mike Brown, friend of the show, friend of the, part of the LLT family, he sent a video. I guess our buddy Theron, excuse me, he was doing the fight for Dallas, ongoing battle. But he's helped a lot of cities. Great guy, the STR superhero, STR Hero. He mentioned something, and it was a great episode because it was like he hopped on this one show. But long story short, he mentioned regulations. He talked about he talked about us. He mentioned something really cool. He goes, he doesn't even like to say the word opposition anymore. When he goes into a city, it's the people saying homes are not hotels and all this stuff, and they're fighting to ban Airbnb, and then the other side, we're fighting to keep it going because it's our livelihood, or a lot of our livelihood. And he said he doesn't like using the word opposition because it makes it's like a negative thing. He said he goes, we got to make them understand we're the good guys too, and we want these bad operators out of Airbnb, just like you do. We want to have, we welcome regulations, we welcome good regulations. And you mentioned it, the city doing inspections, stuff like that, keeping everything nice and safe, and kicking out the people that are letting these house parties go on, just we want to be partners with the other side, not the opposition, partners. Let's find a common ground. Let's do this correctly where people don't get hurt, and cities can benefit from this. It's a lot of taxes involved in this, that cities that could go do a lot of good for schools and education and whatever, jobs. It's providing a lot of jobs to people. It's renovating neighborhoods. So long story longer, like I always do. He mentioned something cool. Because he said, let's take, for example, Chicago. Chicago has, and you went to Chicago. I've never been. I heard it's beautiful, But he said there's regulations there. They do allow short-term rentals, but they got some kind of tricky regulations where you can do it here, but you can't do it here, But he said if you do your due diligence, study what's allowed, and you go and open up an Airbnb or a few of them in the right locations, he goes, you can make great money, and plus you'd be on a type of moat because it's never going to get oversaturated. And I thought, wow, to go after a city, to go maybe look for cities with semi-strict regulations. And if you can get a unit up and going there, and all the qualifications, get it all safety approved and the right neighborhood, and of course sign up to pay the tax. Yeah, it's a pain in the ass. It's a lot of due diligence, a lot of homework. Everybody hates homework, but if you get in, you're protected against oversaturation. Which jumping into Houston was easy, but now you can't make $1 in Houston. You know what I'm saying? But I was like, wow, that's kind of reverse thinking.
And that's something that when I underwriting deals, that's the first thing I look is what is the current legislation on short-term rentals? Is there anything at all? And just from my life views, I usually don't like a lot of regulations from the government. Coming from Argentina, there's a highly state regulated country for absolutely everything. But when I'm buying or trying to acquire a short-term rental, a property, I'm trying to buy in a place that actually has regulations, just to make sure that I don't find later on in a uncomfortable spot where things change rapidly when there are no regulations in place. If you think about it, if the city already has regulations because they already thought about it and they decide this is the way we're going to deal with short-term rentals, and it's not very likely they're going to change pretty quickly. If you jump into a city, and that's why I bought in Grand Prairie and not in Dallas, because I saw this coming. So I bought in Dallas in May, and they banned them in June. So if you're looking for deals, the first thing you want to ask yourself is, okay, what is the short-term rental regulations on your state? Then you take it to your county, and then you take it to your city. That's the first thing you want to do when you're looking for a market. Now that you understand that, you want to know, okay, is my state, pro Airbnb short-term rentals or not? Like, I'm looking into a deal in Nebraska. And Nebraska, they say that the municipalities cannot ban short-term rentals. So I love that. So you narrow it down county and city. Perfect. Now that you have that, you want to check your HOA, if there's any, or apartment building, whatever it is. And that's basically your funnel. So you start from the big one: state, county, city, and then building. Because I've heard, it may be obvious for us, but I've seen people buying condos and then coming up in Facebook and saying, hey, I bought this condo to do short-term rentals, and then I figured out that the HOA does not allow short-term rentals. I don't know what to do with it. Right? And that is a problem, because people are encouraging other people to buy property and do short-term rental without providing all the facts and all the information. Yeah, just tell them you're gonna do corporate stays and then you put it on Airbnb. That's not the way it works. So when I look for places, with short-term rental regulations, just to make sure that there's something in place. If there's something in place, then I know what I'm playing with. If there's no regulation at all, I don't know then if things change, if I'm going to be grandfathering or not. Sometimes reading code can be very challenging, but take your time. It's worth. If there's a code and there's I remember you and Myka talked about this many years ago. I'll say it puts a barrier of entry, and if there's a barrier of entry, the competition is going to be lower, and then you have more opportunities. I think that's huge, which is what you're saying about Chicago.
And I'll say salute to that. Poured me something to have with you. Tink. There you go.
I'm drinking my favorite wine. My mom was here and she brought me a favorite wine Malbec from Argentina, so I'm very happy with that.
That's awesome. Hell yeah. So a funny thing is, like you said, you got to go in there and actually read these regulations. And a lot of these cities, they're so full of contradictions in a way. Whoever wrote them obviously doesn't know anything about short-term rentals. They just say, hey, hey, flunky over there sitting at that desk, write some short-term rental regulations. Okay, I'll write something. And it doesn't, because mention the city of Bedford, Texas. Mention that funny one that you read that was like, what does this mean? Do you remember that one?
Oh, no, I don't remember what it said.
So it said if you could get approved, I remember you told me you get approved for short, it's pretty easy to get a permit, right? For 30 days, under 30 days rentals. What did it say? Yeah,
I think it was like short-term rentals are considered under 30 days, but if you get a permit for short-term rentals, you cannot rent it for more than 30 days. So, like, if someone wants to stay 31 days, I cannot rent it. It's like, I know. It's funny. It's, when I was looking to buy my first house, I started to call the cities, to actually get information for the place that I didn't know that very well. So I had the Bedford deal. I was also looking in Acel, North Fort Worth. And yeah, Bedford, I just called the guy and say, hey man, I'm calling to talk to someone in code enforcement, just to try to understand a little bit, making sure that before I buy the property, I'm gonna be fine with getting a permit. So I just want to make sure you don't have any zoning restrictions that are not noted in the website or something like that. But I'm getting so familiar with the muni websites. Every city has a muni website. You have all the ordinances. But yeah, he had no idea. He was like, just tell me, yeah, I think it's gonna be fine. Shouldn't be a problem. Okay. Then I called the city of Acel after multiple times trying to call and find the one guy that deals with short-term rentals. It's like, hey, yeah, I'm calling because I'm looking into investing in property, and I'm potentially putting in a short-term rental. I wanted to know if you have any type of regulations. It's like, no, if they're not a problem right now, so if they keep not being a problem, we're not going to do any regulations. Right? So it takes only one party to then screw it up for everyone. I was like, yeah, I was like, so do you have any taxes? No, we don't have any taxes. So, okay. That yesterday, what was I reading? Yeah, that's the thing. I was reading, some cities and they don't have any information about taxes. like Richardson. I was looking for Richardson, Texas, and no information on the website city anything about hot taxes. It's like, okay,
You would think
I'll just call and make sure it's just not to get in trouble.
You would think the one thing that government could get right is taxes, right? Because they love to tax the hell out of us, and they
not even that.
I know. I'd say, okay, guys, government guys, if I'm in the government, we gotta the one thing we gotta do right is take people's money. All right, the rest does, if it's legal, illegal, however we do it, don't matter. Get their money, and then we'll figure it out. I don't know. I just thought it was funny.
We also in Argentina. I mean, the government can even keep the grass short by the side of the road. So,
oh man. Yeah. So the regulations part.
We're gonna start. I'm gonna draw a snake in this yellow thing, and we're gonna change the the subject of the now. It's just like understanding that sometimes regulations, it can be very challenging dealing with government sometimes when they're putting regulations on things that they don't fully understand, when they don't get involved in the matter to really understand what is the subject, right? And that's I feel sometimes where the frustration actually comes from is you get a city trying to regulate this, and they're hearing both sides, but they actually don't know how the whole thing operates. Because I actually had the opportunity to speak in the city council last meeting before they actually banned short-term rentals. And what I said, going back to what Theron, the short-term rental hero, says, what I said is, there's nothing worse. There's no biggest fear for an operator, a short-term rental operator, having a party, having prostitution, or someone killing their properties. It's not like we're staging this to happen.
Mm-hmm.
That is my worst fear, man. If I wake up and I have on my phone messages of someone being killed on a property, or having a prostitution ring on my property, or having drug dealing in my property, I would be so I don't know what
devastated.
So it's not that people want that. It's just like, because of the low barrier of entry, anyone can set up an Airbnb. They don't know what they're doing. They don't know how to vet a guest, and they end up with that, because this is what they need to understand. All of these problems are not going to go away. They're just going to move to another area of the city, which is probably going to be an area that people don't care about, because it's going to be an underdeveloped area where they can do whatever they want, because no one's going to come to enforce an underdeveloped area like the good neighborhoods, and then it creates more disparity. That's the way that I see it, at least. I may be wrong, but I think that's what's going to happen, because if people want to party, they're going to keep partying. They're just going to go to another area.
That's a revelation right now. I just had a revelation, because in all these battles, and people don't say it, but there are strong undercurrents of racism in all these city battles, right? And we Live Let Thrive keeps it real. We put it out there. On the one side of the meetings where they're all sitting with their shirts, homes aren't hotels, it's a lot of older white people. I'm just putting it out there. In every battle I've seen, I'm sure it's sprinkled in, some minorities that own houses over there in those areas. And I just thought of it. Right now. And you see these parties getting busted up. A lot of times it's minorities having big parties. I'm not saying white kids don't have big parties too, but white kids have been partying in their own neighborhoods for a long time, right? Airbnb has made it where the minorities are partying in these neighborhoods sometimes. Like I said, that's the ones that get on the news and whatever, 100 cars out there, all that stuff, the fights, maybe some gunshots, whatever it is that gets, all the media attention and the people wanting all this out of their city. But you made me think of something right now. I'm like, why don't they just party in their own neighborhoods? Why don't the minorities just party in their own neighborhoods? And they do, but they don't. Airbnb operators, we're not gonna start a house in the hood. We don't want to put an Airbnb in the hood. It's bad for business. The people that have money that want to go and travel and go see Dallas or go see whatever city, we want it in a nice neighborhood, right? Mm-hmm. So there's not these Airbnbs in the hood on these houses, in the middle of the hood, like there is, people would get a house in a nice area because they think it's going to do better as Airbnb. So that's I just thought of it right now. I'm like, that's a
something
huge thing.
It's been, it's something I did thought about it, because if you think about it, it's like people feel threatened about seeing all the different people coming to the neighborhood that are not the people that are used to see. Not only about race, we're talking about people out of town, people that may from other countries, people with an accent, whatever it is. It's like, okay, I don't like to have people coming in and out, like you're saying. So I agree 100%, because again, if the problem keeps being pushed to somewhere where I don't see it, that's the way that I look at it. It's like, oh, there's gun violence, whatever it is. Yeah, let's push it away. And this is something that I think happens in society in many other issues. Instead of actually understanding the root of the issue, you should go to the superficial part. It's like, I don't want to get too political and into very deep issues of in this short-term rental podcast, but you can think about it. I mean, a lot of the issues, we're not asking why people are doing what they're doing. They're just saying, "Oh, this seems to be the problem." So if you talk about, I don't know, drugs, for example, as we were saying in our short-term rentals, it's like, okay, but actually, why people are using so much drugs instead of, because it's not a short-term rental. Again, they're gonna go to another property, another location to do that. So bringing it back to short-term rentals as operators, what I can say is, try to be in areas and locations that already have regulations and try to comply and be a good operator in order to make sure that you are not, not everyone get busted and, stop being, you get stopped from being a short-term rental operator in your area, but doing stupid things. So you can prevent stuff from happening. How? By asking questions, by, I think it is a cycle, and let me tell you what I see happening. A city with no regulations is a low barrier to entry. A low barrier to entry is going to get a lot of properties. A lot of properties are going to create a lot of competition. It's going to create saturation, and saturation is going to drop prices. When you drop prices, anyone can book the properties, and when anyone can book the properties, it's going to bring undesirable, situations and guests sometimes. So, and that is what then triggers the regulations. Because I think we've seen that's why it hit up in the last year. I think the banning short-term rentals in Dallas, because a lot of people started doing short-term rentals, and then, you can book a house for $90 a night, and then let's book a house for $90 a night and throw a party, and the person who is a host is not asking the right questions to bed that stay. How many times we've seen a new property being launched, and we go to the calendar and they only have the Saturdays booked. There's people that don't have a minimum stay on the weekends.
It's nuts, man. And I'll go back to Theron real quick. And people ask him, this is like one of the most questions he gets asked, right? Is like, okay, well, why isn't Airbnb at these city halls fighting to save short-term rentals? Why aren't they there, or VRBO or whatever? And he said, it's not their fight, And first of all, and they're the ones that people are hating, So you're going to bring the devil in the room to argue for the devil. He goes, it's the citizens of the city are the ones that have to fight to keep the rights to do something like that. And Airbnb, in Airbnb's case, they're the ones that kind of opened up Pandora's box, and the cities weren't prepared for this. The cities weren't prepared at all for doing legislation.
It's like Uber.
Exactly. And Uber's still here, and they're thriving. I guess I don't know what their story is, but they're in every city and every place, whatever. But Airbnb, they just made it where anybody could do this anywhere, and the cities were not prepared for what's going to happen when that happens, And so now they're learning. So they're and the only person I see that has the right I would say remedy for it, or kind of a way to get this to work, to get this to keep going on in cities, and us, operators operating, it is Theron, because he talked about, he said he doesn't just go, let's go sue the shit out of them, whatever. That's not going to work. They got endless money, tax dollar monies to protect themselves against lawsuits. is getting lobbyists to go sit down and talk to them. Say, listen, let's make some smart regulations. Let's show them, hey, this is how much income Airbnb could bring, or short-term rentals can bring into your city, which happens to be bankrupt right now. You can have like 9% taxes on these houses, and a house, making multi-millions of dollars, bringing into your city that you can use. And it'll help the city, and then we'll keep the, we'll make it where, like you said, barrier to entry, that everybody, it kind of educating these council people, right? Saying we'll make it where not everybody and their mama can open up an Airbnb. They have to go through these regulations that you set, that we can help you set, and get them talking to them, explaining them and the positives of having short-term rentals in the neighborhood, and then making a compromise for both sides and making it a positive thing. So I think Theron's doing the best in this whole situation, and we really appreciate his work out there. But it's just everybody's getting educated on this, man. It's a sticky situation, and we've been going through it. I've been going through it for years now. The Arlington banned it. I have houses in Arlington. Hearst banned it. I have a house in Hearst. Everywhere I've had Airbnb, it's been banned so far. I guess Fort Worth, technically.
You're the problem.
Yeah, it's me. And Dallas now. Yeah, fuck yeah. And so it's just I don't know, man. It like you said, if you make things a little bit difficult for people, they're probably not going to do it. That's just human nature.
Let me say something about that, because I don't want to sound like an asshole. People think that there should be a high barrier to entry, so only the people who have the knowledge can get into this. That's not what I'm saying. Something I love about this type of businesses is that it gives opportunity to a lot of minorities and people, with different backgrounds to get into entrepreneurship. I'm saying that as an immigrant, I got here in November. I got started from there. I have an accent. I'm Latino. So what I mean with the barrier of entry is provide people with the basic resources and guidelines so they can get started with the right foot. I think Airbnb, again, should have a program where they give you the basics that you need to understand when operating. I think that cities should have the basic requirements so you don't screw up. I can assure you, think about the process of listing a property in Airbnb. I know you haven't done it in a while because, we have people that do it for us, which is great. But nowadays, you can set up a listing in 3 clicks. They ask you the bare minimum information. It's just like, okay, put the photos, give me a title, mark the basic amenities, write a little description, boom, you are live. Set up a base price. If you don't know what you're doing, I remember when I first used Airbnb as a host many years ago for my spare room, I had no idea what I was doing. And you start getting these bookings like, someone booked a Saturday at $50. What did I do? It's because people don't have the minimum understanding of what is a minimum stay, what type of cancellation policy should I use, how do I accept a last minute booking, who do I set up, who can book instantly and who shouldn't book instantly. So you get your hands in an Airbnb account, a listing for the first time, you don't know what you're doing.
That's a good point, man, because that's Airbnb's fault in a way, that not only is it making it where, it's so easy to set up in a few clicks and you're, oh shit, how did I published? I guess I'm live, you don't even know. You don't even realize when you get to the last page, it just says, okay, boom. And I think that's bad on Airbnb's part, that they make it like that. They should at least make it, hey, are you sure you want to do one night rentals on weekends? They could encourage party situations. I don't know. There should be a little something, but then in their eyes, they want to make it as simple as possible so more people can do it. So, but then they're hurting themselves at the same point, because someone that is a first-time Airbnb, setter upper, we've done a bunch of them, we know what to, like, oh crap, before I go publish, I'm going to go in there and go back, and then I'm going to manually change these things, because you have to do it. It's kind of like advanced settings in a way, what I'm saying? You got to go manually and do these things, because we know because if you hit that publish button, they could book out freaking Christmas tomorrow. You know what I'm saying? And then for $50 or whatever it is.
I have a whole video that I need to upload and put somewhere to share with people, which is how to set up a listing from scratch, an account. Because I listed my property in Argentina a couple of weeks ago, fully booked until September, which I'm very happy, mid-September. But yeah, I put my condo from Argentina live on Airbnb, so I created a new account and I went through the entire process of setting up the account, setting up the listing, and going through all the adjustments you need to do after setting up the listing. And I did a video. I need to put it on YouTube, or I'm gonna put it somewhere for people to see it. Free. It's just because it's what you need to know the very basics when you launch a property.
Can you put that on Twitter? Do they allow videos?
Yeah.
Okay. What's your Twitter handle? Or do you have a STR guide?
Yeah, on Instagram. Yeah, I'm gonna put a link there.
Okay.
On Instagram. Yeah.
Because people right now they're listening like, oh shit, I want to see that video. I would
reach out to me, STR guide. I'm gonna put it somewhere because that is the thing. There's so many things that you need to understand how every checkbox, every drop option, how you call it,
drop down,
and you drop down checkbox, multiple choice, whatever it is that Airbnb is offering. Everyone's gonna affect the process of your listing being booked, right? How your listing being displayed to whom. Sorry, my dog is here playing.
That's all right.
So that makes a huge difference. So you want to make sure that really once you set up your listing, go to your listing action and go to every tab and every section, try to understand what it means. I'm gonna share this video because that is the thing. There's so many adjustments you need to do, but if you don't know what you're doing, everything is new. And you hear all these people just putting that Airbnb is so easy and you should think about the process of launching your Airbnb. Either buying or doing an arbitrage. Just the acquisition process is already extremely difficult, extremely overwhelming. Finding a property, trying to have a better idea if it's gonna do well on Airbnb, not having an idea how to comp. It's just like, well, I see that other Airbnbs in the area. How do I design this to be an Airbnb? What amenities do I put? What do I need to have? All of that already is overwhelming. And then you are listing your property. By that point, you're already so exhausted. And then you list your property and you have no idea what you're dealing with. I'm really thinking about first-time operators. And then you start having bookings, like people are booking. And I've seen this in the Facebook groups and everywhere. It's like, oh, I set up my listing for people not to book last minute. I just got a booking. I need to go open this person last minute. And it's 11 p.m., right? So, man, understanding that for first-time operators is huge. I'm going to share more education on that. Reach out to me if you have any questions. But I think that's part of the problem as well.
Yeah, and that was part of the questions I had on here to ask you too, was what steps, what would be like, 5 steps or 10 steps for first-time operators, either setting up their own Airbnbs or managing for somebody, becoming a co-host. I was going to ask you those steps, but that's going to, it would be best if you did have a video, to show people, and we can add it in our show notes too, if you do have a video, or go to at STR guide, STRGUIDE, at STR guide. Go there, because I have a feeling Fed is going to be up all night working on something like that to have for you guys. And because this episode will drop tomorrow, Wednesday. So yeah, if you have that, go to at STR guide, and you can reach out to Federico too. You can send him a message; he'll give you that. Yeah. But he loves to share and give away shit for free. I tell him, dude, let's make some money from this shit. But go follow Federico. He gives all these badass tips. He does all kinds of. He likes to be getting his hands dirty outside too. He likes to get he likes to be out in the field. He's nonstop, man. And I'm happy. I'm happy I have him as a partner in this company. And that we're building something great. And we love what we do. You can tell. I mean, I've been doing this shit for 7 years on the podcast or whatever. Fede, he saw what I was doing. I remember when I would pick you up from the airport all the time and shit, and you would always ask me questions, and like I was renting out my Arlington House by the stadiums for like I was telling you, yeah, I'm making like $4 or $5 grand a month. And you're like, what? You're like, holy shit. What's your mortgage? Mortgage is this, whatever it was, 1,500 or 1,600, and you're making 3,000. What? You're like, you just were fascinated by it, man. And of
I
course,
remember. Sorry to interrupt you, but I remember exactly. I can close my eyes and tell you where I was walking on, the street of my house in Argentina, walking, listening to Live Let Thrive, like being blown away by what you guys were doing. It was. We're talking about the first days. What was this, man? 2020. I think it was 2019. I remember so well being listening to Live Let Thrive, and trying to wrap my head. I had the dream. It's like, I'm gonna get to America. I'm gonna be buying real estate. I'm gonna be doing this one day. It seems so far away, man. But here we are. I mean, I'm here. Look at this. This is our new house with a pool, 3-bedroom, 2-bath here, and already looking for a new one. That's the beauty. And that's the beauty about this country. That's why I have the flag over there. I love America. I'm so grateful to be here, and that's something that we're talking about. There's some problems in society that happens everywhere, but there's something that that I hope that that everyone appreciates, living in a free country where you actually can do. If you have a goal and objective and you really work hard for it, you can make it here. And I think that is huge, and that's something that doesn't happen in every country in the world. And it's. Again, it was 4th of July a couple of days ago, and it was very special. My first 4th of July living here, and for me it's like, okay, I'm building the American dream.
I will say this to that, man. That's beautiful. But I work. Like, I still have my day job. I go sometimes. I don't go all the time. 2 or 3 days a week, whatever. If I feel like
we're getting you out of there.
Yeah, getting out of there, and I'm surrounded by a lot of people that just complain about, everything. We're not getting paid enough. They pay plenty over there. We're not, this or that. Oh, they expect me to do some work, just whatever the complaints are, right? And just being around that negativity really, really drains you. If you're in that situation, get the fuck out of that situation. At least, go make less money somewhere else and be in a positive situation, because then it'll help you to grow, But anyways, just being around constant negativity is bad for the soul. But if I go on a tangent here, I tell these people or people that's negative a lot of times, and we get a lot of that here in this country for some reason. And you look at the news and the world's
but it's everywhere.
U.S. is burning down. I go to Mexico, I just got back from Mexico, from Guadalajara, and I see firsthand how people live, in the real towns. I'm not saying if you go to Cancun, you stay on the fucking resort, you don't see shit, right? You might see look over there, there's some poor people, but I stay in it, in a third world type conditions, and it's just like, holy crap, we got so much here, and it's not just living in poor conditions, what we would consider poverty. They're middle classes in like somewhere like Mexico or wherever, a lot of parts of the world is considered middle class, and where it would be considered here like way below poverty, like way below poverty, and no air condition, no nothing, no running water, stuff like that. You know what I'm saying? That's where a lot of the world lives. And that's not, to me, that's not the worst of it. The worst of it is there's zero hope for improving, or your kids are gonna get out of it, or their kids are gonna get out. There's no hope, in a lot of these situations. In a lot of these countries, there's the ultra rich, and then there's the poor. That's it. There's no middle class, and the middle class is, here, like I said, here would be considered poor. But when you go, I wish, like, a lot of these people that are so negative here would go to a place like that and see that firsthand, and see those conditions, and see how people are affected when there is no hope to climb. Here, anybody can start any business, go pay $20 at the freaking office, and then you have yourself a business, and you can do whatever you want. You can start mowing yards. You can if you want to make more money, mow more yards, and hire people to mow yards for you. And It's so easy to start a business and then advance yourself here. Anybody can do it, and you say, well, poor people here in the poor situation. There's so many examples of poor people that I know. I didn't grow up rich. Excuse me. But it's just the opportunity here, that's what I noticed the most, where you go to countries and there's just zero hope, zero opportunity. We're always going to be poor. We're all going to live in this little house. My kids are going to be poor. Their kids are going to be poor. It's just generation of no hope at all. And so go look at that and then come back and complain.
Absolutely, man. Absolutely. I mean, that's exactly the background where we're coming from. People don't understand. In Argentina, if you want to open a hot dog stand, you need at least 30 different type of permits. No, I'm not kidding. You can look it up. You need like 30 permits. Maybe I'm short. You need a permit from the guy that sells the sausages, the hot dogs, the buns, to transport. Then I mean, it's stupid. It's overregulated. It's so bureaucratic. There's more people working for the government than actually in the private sector. So it's becoming a Ponzi scheme, because right now there's not enough people to tax to pay for the government jobs. So they print money, and that's why you end up with a 100% inflation every year, right? Which is what left. So just to give you an example, when I started my corporate job at American Airlines, because my contract was in Argentina, I started there in 2012, earning in dollars. I was earning $1,200 a month, and 10 years later, with a supervisor type of a salary, I was when I left, I was getting like $800 a month. But I went from earning like 1,200 pesos, and when I left, I was earning 150,000 pesos. But it was worth nothing. That's inflation caused by all that, right? So there's no. I think I talked about that, right? So there's no credit for real estate, for mortgages that don't exist. When we bought our condo over there, we had to pay in cash, and you had to count the bills, everything in dollars for real estate, because pesos devaluate. So we had to count all the bills in a room, in a large table, and everyone's like counting bills like that. So you go with a bag of US dollars, like if you're in narcos. That's a normal transaction for real estate.
Crazy.
And the crazy thing is, Argentina was a country that it was the only country in Latin America that actually had a strong middle class, and got destroyed by inflation and the devaluation of the currency. So this weekend, my group of friends, the ones that are left, they had another farewell party this weekend for one of my friends are moving to Spain. So all my friends are either in Europe or, moving to the US, Canada. They're all professionals, engineers, business
Doctors,
degrees and stuff
lawyers.
like that, and they're all living the
Brain
country.
drain.
And if they're not living, they're looking on ways to live. So another friend is moving to Chile in a couple of months. So I was only a bunch of them are staying in Argentina, just because they need to take care of the family, or they have a family business, and it's hard for them to leave. Otherwise, they will be leaving, right? And when I tell them about my life here, they're like, "Man, you are so lucky," So yeah, I'm grateful. Cheers to that.
Cheers to that, man. We both went on our little rants there.
Yeah, it's
That's
just
what we do.
It's feeling grateful again. It's just I understand that sometimes you go on the day to day, and when you don't get to experience something different, you may feel that what you're surrounded by may not be very positive. So getting that different perspective, I think, is very helpful. So if you're thinking about getting started in a business, if you're doubting about getting started something, you are in the best place to do it. You're in the best country to do it. There's no better place to start a business. And there's a lot of education out there. If you're listening to Live the Thrive, you're already going on the right path, because you're getting the good information. You can reach out to me if you have questions. I'm happy to help people run comms, answering questions, answering doubts, answering fears that you may have with getting started. It's just to because for all the opportunities that I've been given, I want to give back. So I'm happy to help.
And that's the thing. That's the cool part of our show. Me and Myka, when we do it, we don't pretend to be the gurus that have all the answers. Do this, and you're gonna be successful and be a millionaire in a week. We don't do that shit. This shit is hard. This is a lot of hours. It's a lot of stress. It's what do they say? An entrepreneur is someone that'll work 100 hours a week so they don't have to work 40. That's an expression. That's true. And plus there's a lot of stress because like failure is not an option. You know what I'm saying? I go to work, I don't even have to work that day very hard and I'm still going to get a paycheck. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But entrepreneur, no, you can't bullshit like that. You gotta go and invent this money. You know what I'm saying? So it's just it's just a mindset. It's hard. It's hard. We preach on the show. We make mistakes all the time, but we learn from them, and we go make some more. We're gonna make mistakes we don't even know about. We don't know what we don't know yet. We're gonna make bigger mistakes in the future because we're gonna do bigger deals and bigger businesses. It's gonna grow. It comes with growth. Growing pains. And like we mentioned on the show before, every time a company doubles or whatever, it's a different company altogether. So we don't even know what mistakes we're gonna make in the future, but we know we're gonna make, and we know we can. There's a way to solve them. That's the main thing, and we appreciate all the listeners listening to the show. We shoot you straight. We don't bullshit you. There's no fucking magic what's it called, hacks or whatever to just all of a sudden become successful. Whoever tells you that, they're fucking lying. Don't believe them, and don't give them $10,000, $20,000, $30,000 because that's on you fucking moron. Sorry, we're cussing now. The drinks are pouring through us, but we love you listeners because we know you're not really morons, but don't go give your money to people like that. Yeah, we're go to Clubhouse and listen to all that drama going on right now with all these fucking scammers out there. I called it. Anyways, great show. Thank you for hopping on, Federico Zimmerman. Find him find him at STR Guide, and go hit him up. He answers all his fan mail, all his emails, all his whatever mails, she mails, he mails, all that stuff. He answers it all, and he's a great dude, and I'm happy. Thanks, he's my partner. Love you, brother. And thank y'all for listening to Live Let Thrive. LiveLetThrive@gmail.com, LiveLetThrive.com, all that fun stuff. Hit me up, Stevie Stacks. Hit up Argis Rentals. We'll manage for you, so you don't have to go through all these headaches, and we'll make your stack grow. So yeah, thank y'all for listening. We will talk to y'all later. Peace.
Bye.
Thank you for tuning in to this week's episode of Live Let Thrive. Be sure to tune in next week for all the latest in the world of Airbnb and all that entails. Bye-bye.